Hi, and welcome to another episode of Real UFOs. They have photos, and they were there, and we shot them
In
in
5D,
5D.
they don't use the term UFO anymore.
Uh, I, uh, I, I, I think they do in this
They don't use
case.
the term UFO anymore.
I
Uh,
know that there's the unidentified aerial phenomena. That's the UAUP, I think is what they call them now, or
UAP,
UAP. Yeah.
unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
Okay. Well, I
Give it the
see.
times, man.
I've seen
Give it the
different
times,
interpretations on
man.
that, and the UFO thing has been used in most of the articles I've read. This is
Yeah, but
actually
those articles
it's
aren't with the time, man.
they. I mean, they're some of them. At least one of them was with the New York Times.
That's made up time. New York isn't even
I
real.
mean, time is made up.
Right.
It's all.
But
It's
you
all.
gotta get with it.
It's all made up. It's demons in the sky, sir. That's what it
It's
is.
it's that's never what it is.
That's never what it is. It's never lupus. It is never
It's
lupus.
never lupus.
Okay, so a bunch of shenanigans have been going on around the world, even in media, and I've been ignoring all of it. I legitimately have not been clued into anything, and I'm spending all my fucking time playing video games and watching TV. I decided to get a flu shot, and that made me get sleepy and other things. So I spent the entire part of my weekend just doing absolutely nothing. But what it did let me do was actually catch some nice new Netflix content. I got two shows, very similar vein, but handled completely different that I want to talk about. The first one is called Lockwood and Co., and it's about ghost hunting in Britain.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
this already sounds like a very you show.
100%. But the best part is that there's a bunch of lore within this universe. It's not just like people with flashlights and EMF readers going into old buildings. It,
Sure.
it is very much, and I believe it's based on either a book series or a comic series. I don't recall. But quick setup. Uh, about 50 years ago in universe time, something happened, and ghosts showed up and started putting people in these vegetative states, some of them, or outright killing others. And along the way they figured out there is a certain way to fight them. Unfortunately, the only people who can fight them are kids, because they, even if they happen to be gifted with the sight, once they grow older it goes away. So that's the setup. It's a bit of a mystery as well, so I don't want to go completely ruining it. But I did see the entirety of the first season. It has been renewed for a second season, and I'm
Hmm.
actually excited for this. I
Is
will.
it actually a custom Netflix show, or is it just a show Netflix bought the rights into and they're not actually making the decisions on it?
That's a good question, because now I'm curious as well, because Netflix cancels everything.
Right.
So I will say it is a young adult fiction type show. All of the actors look very young, and while it does handle a lot more of the darker themes, think Fear Street versus Goosebumps, right?
Okay.
That it does handle it well, and there is a little bit more adult content. It is very much still some of the content itself is a little bit
This is not
young
pornography.
adult. Well, young adult, I mean, in the sense where it's like, yeah, okay, an agency probably wouldn't act that way. That's not real world. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a solid show. The actors put in really good performances, and I will say that while it does a bunch of tropes and cliches, because you can't get away from them, uh, there were times where it did things I didn't expect, which I really like. And I'm being extremely vague for a reason. It's not a show that like would get absolutely ruined, but part of the experience is kind of learning it with the characters, because it's very much one of those shows. Just for the setup, is they're still learning a lot about that big event that happened and why it happened. So it's nice to experience the lore as it's fed to you. And I will say that as much as I wish there was more fed to me, I'd have to read the books, to really find out if they're just stretching the material or if this is actually the pacing of the books, because the setup very much is a longer arc trying to figure out the universe, what's going on, but with self-contained character pieces. And it does focus on all of them at one point or another. It is a very good freshman season, I would say. I'm hoping their sophomore season adds a little bit more. Well, the characters have gotten depth, but now that we're over we need to learn each other's backstories kind of thing.
Sure.
And why everyone acts the way that they are. Now that they're more a cohesive unit, I would say. I would love to see their fresh sophomore season, them kicking the ass that the lore says they should be able to.
Fair enough.
Honestly, solid 4.25 out of 5.
Very specific.
Because it's not quite a 4.5, right? Like I said, there are some cliches that they do fall into. Pacing, sometimes it does struggle a little bit. Similar to like Sandman, where a lot of very good, interesting bits, cool set pieces. You want to know more about the universe and the characters, but sometimes
would you like to know more?
But sometimes I just wish you'd get to the fucking point there, episode kind of deal, stuff like that. So that's why it's not quite a 4.5. But I enjoyed.
Speaking of like spooky kid shows, I just kind of half read one review for it, and I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me because it wasn't something I was committing to memory, but we're talking about spooky kid shows. I actually saw apparently the new season of Digimon is called Digimon Ghost.
Oh.
And while it is, it's Digimon, it's a kid show mostly. Like primarily it's a younger audience shonen. But apparently this one is like very horror themed, and at least according to this writer, actually had some like fairly scary moments. And now I'm like, do I need to watch Digimon Ghost?
I might just watch it. I haven't seen Digimon in years.
Yeah, same.
So I tried to go and rewatch it at one point, and I had to stop. Problem is, it was years ago, and I don't 100% remember why I had to stop. But I think it was one of those things where it was just a little too kiddie for me, where there wasn't enough adult content to get me through. So I'd probably rewatch it again, but have it in the background.
I'd go so far as to say Pokemon is the better games and the funner franchise, but Digimon was actually the better anime.
Yeah, that's true.
The Pokemon show sucks.
Yeah, it was too... Like, I always felt that the Digimon had better story arcs and like an overall universe feel to it. Yeah. And the Pokemon shows felt like Battle of the Week.
Yeah.
So, like, oh, we've learned this lesson. Great. Thanks. That's
cool story.
Yeah, I could have watched the Magic School Bus and probably had more fun with Miss Frizzle.
Miss Frizzle was the shizzle, bro.
She was. Cool. Cool books, cool stories. Anyways, so yeah, Logwood & Co. Check it out. I actually think you'd like it. My wife liked it. So it isn't scary, per se. There are some...
Spooky noochies?
Spookies, yeah. Some spookiness. But yeah, no, it's pretty good. All right. Second show that I mentioned is called Mr. Midnight. And so here's the beauty about this show. It is based on at least Indonesian area lore.
Okay.
So the ghosts, spirits, and things that they run into aren't your traditional Western folks.
Is it an American show, or is it a foreign show dubbed over?
So I don't know. We looked it up and it was unclear because there were a bunch of different dubbings for it. But it looks like it's a show done in English with really well, like verbally, stupid words, with folks that have accents, but they can still enunciate really well.
Ah,
right? And not all of them have accents. Some of them just sound fine.
but you don't know where it was produced?
It's definitely not produced. It's filmed in Indonesia for sure. But I don't know what country of origin. I'm guessing it's Indonesian
Mr.
show.
Midnight, Beware the Monsters.
That might be the book series. I think this one was just called Mr. Midnight.
It is an adaptation of the popular Singaporean book series Mr. Midnight by James Lee.
Yeah, I did know.
Production Beach House is the production company.
So it is
Filmed in Singapore.
so Singapore. Yeah. Did I get that wrong? We were going back and forth, and I guess I landed
You
on
said
the wrong one.
Indonesian.
Yeah. So it's funny because me and my wife kept switching back and forth between which one we thought it was, and I guess I just got it wrong. So I have to go
No,
apologize.
but original language is English. Yeah, I wonder if this is one of those like weird co-produced deals.
Yeah, I bet you it's something you want to get some content for that market, and
International audiences, yeah.
and you partner with a local production company. But anyways, so setup is there's a group of kids, and again, it's one of those where there's secrets that get revealed, and I don't want to spoil it, but group of
Sure.
kids that have a podcast about the supernatural, and then an event happens and things get realer. They're no longer doing the flashlight in the empty buildings, and they start seeing real things. So they, to get a broader audience, they create a character called Mr. Midnight for their video blog that they use to tell the stories of their real life supernatural experiences that they're having when they're not doing the event. But it is very much Southeast Asia, I think, lore. They pull from their very, very different things. But example, like they show an example of the hopping vampire versus your traditional Western vampire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So things like that. Performances are spot on. It still has that very wacky movements and kind of comedy out of nowhere, almost slapsticky that you get in a lot of those regional productions. But it doesn't bother me as much as it would when that seems to be the joke. I think it's well produced. The stories are interesting, and also again, although she refuses to watch it at night, my wife is into this one as well. And if something is horror related, it's got to be good for her to actually want to sit through it.
Right. Yeah. She's not a fan of anything even mildly scary.
Yeah. So, anyways, wanted to pair these up because it's basically the same setup, right? A couple of kids fighting the supernatural, very different takes on it. And I'm kind of pleased because for the longest time, I had started to lose hope in some of the Netflix produced stuff. The stuff that they haven't canceled.
Right.
They've canceled some good stuff. Pretty good.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm glad some of those international shows are paying off because honestly, like a lot of them pop up on my feed, and a lot of them I can only make it through minutes before I'm just like, I can't watch this. I'm not into it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm at the point where I usually playing something on my handheld, and I can't sit there and read subtitles.
Right.
So if there isn't a decent dubbing, I usually don't check it out. I'm also really burnt out on a bunch of subjects.
Actually, speaking, there was one I wasn't going to review, but I will super quick. We don't need an image of it or anything, but there was a Netflix dubbed horror movie that I watched on my plane ride from Nashville.
Okay.
So it's called A Classic Horror Story. So based off of the name, I already kind of made some assumptions, but boy was I wrong, because apparently when they say a classic horror story, what they meant was just terribly predictable. Every step of the way.
It's a classic, of course.
So it's all about these people on a road trip together, when suddenly their van or camper or whatever you want to call it crashes, and then when they wake up, they're like suddenly in the middle of the woods. Like there's no way the car was as deep in the woods as they were when they crashed because they were on the road, and there's like a mysterious house there. And then through horror and shenanigans, there's like a cult, and the cult worships these Italian gods, and they kill people for food or something. Like it's a really just shitty cult story. Like
It
you
would be a
know,
great episode of Supernatural, but not so much as a full length film.
yeah. I mean, like it's just kind of it's a really phoned in cult story. Like oh, they kill people. Why? Because their god brings them food. Okay, whatever. Uh, so here's what look. I'm just gonna spoil the shit out of this and save you the time. It's not very good. It's most of the kills pull the punches.
Oh,
And even for some of the ones that have like elaborate torture devices, they still pull the punch.
that's the worst.
Yeah. So I called who the villain was the very first time he showed up on camera,
I
and it's
love.
supposed to be a big twist. You're not
Uh,
supposed to know that this guy is the villain.
except he showed up with a pointy hat and twirling a mustache.
I mean, yeah, he looks all like coked out and he's awkwardly filming everybody. And I was like, okay, well, that's the guy. That's him right there. And then, for the next few scenes, everything they find that like gives them information about the cult or whatever, he led them towards, but then just plays it off like, oh, but we should have been heading south, and how did we end up here? Ah! So he's been drugging their beer and knocking them out, and that's how like they've been waking up at weird times and being moved around. It turns out he's filming the whole thing, and that's your big twist. It's a classic horror story because he's making a classic horror movie, except they really kill the people. And that way it'll be like found footage, and there'll be a legend behind it. And oh, and because it's Italian, the mafia's in on it, and this is how like the mafia's operating these days or something, and the gods are named after the founding fathers of the mafia, and it just becomes this really like weirdly, dude. I even predicted that the whole thing was going to end up being something he was filming because at one point out of like he does mention that he's a film school guy, but he doesn't really talk about movies a whole lot except for one scene where he like really over delivers on how they're totally in a Sam Raimi film. And it was just so specific out of nowhere that I had to go like, "Oh, this is all your creepy little movie that you're doing." Now, I thought he was just going to jerk off to it. I didn't call like the mob was a part of it and all of that shit. I just assumed creepy guy masturbating to the people he kills. And it was a little bigger than that. There's another like big reveal where like there's this little girl character and you're supposed to be like, "Where's the little girl?" And immediately I'm like, "She's with them." Duh. Like just really duh. And, oh god, it was just the honestly one of the worst parts. The dude starts going off on how like, oh man, there's no horror in Italy, and Italy, we've never like horror, and unless it's a rom com, it's never gonna sell in Italy. And I'm like, what about Giallo? Really? Like there's that Italian schlock horror and sci-fi is essentially its own genre.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
tons of that. And yes, it's a little dated and it's considered schlocky, but you can't say it wasn't enjoyed. It fucking dominated Italian
Yeah.
film for I don't know, a good
Well, it's
10,
like
15
everybody
years.
pretends that slashers are passe. I'm like, they were the thing in the 80s. They were the
Look,
thing.
and they still make money off of
Yep.
really, really tiny budgets. They still consistently make money. So it was just really bad. It was really bad, and it was dubbed over. And I don't like. I could like when something is really good and it's dubbed over. Obviously, I can tolerate it. Good work is good work. But something that's bad and dubbed over, I just start to be like, why am I watching this? And then, unfortunately, it's because I was on a plane. That's why I was watching it. I didn't have an option B because that's what was downloaded on my phone.
Oh, download it on your phone. Well, there you go.
I don't have headphone jack headphones anymore because the world doesn't care about that apparently.
I luckily mine do dual duty. They're both wireless and wired. It's
I
the
can do
only.
wired, but it's USB wired.
See, no, these are still the 3.5
Yeah.
because I'm either doing Bluetooth or why else would I do? Yeah, no, sorry,
Yeah.
but
No,
that's
no,
just the
it's
way
not
it
your fault.
works.
Yeah, not your fault. But yeah, it was really pretty shit.
It really sounds like it was us in that old trailer after a night of D&D, just drunk and coming up with a movie.
Yeah, and I mean, the style was really cool. I guess I got where they were going. They did such a poor job setting it up. It was all just so painfully foreshadowed.
Okay. So it just looks like they were on the right track, but it
When
just
you
didn't
want to
come
have a
together.
surprise as to who your villain is, don't make it the creepiest looking guy in the group.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sad. All right. Well, there is one thing that I want you to talk about because I do want to know about it. Especially because apparently the French government is mad about it. So tell us about Wakanda Forever.
Wait, why is the French government mad? Oh, I know why the French government's mad. Oh my god, boo fucking
I
who.
don't know if they're actually mad. There was I read a headline about somebody in the government making a comment. I think it was their prime minister. Was the president? I don't actually know. Not cultured enough for that. But yeah, probably made some throwaway comment and it gave them a headline. So whatever.
It literally there's like a scene where the United Nations get together like, yo, Wakanda, you said you'd share technology. What up with all that vibranium you're hoarding? And they're like, well, because you guys can't be trusted to not make like super weapons and try and steal vibranium, we're not giving it to you. But it's like the French prime minister who's calling them out on it, being like, yo, what the fuck? And then literally the Wakandans march in a group of French mercenaries sent by the government to steal vibranium. And they're like, yo, when you stop doing exactly this, we'll give you vibranium.
That's funny. Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, there you go. That apparently that may or may not have been offensive. I didn't read the article.
suck it up, Frenchie. Okay, so
Wow.
um, look, I know you weren't a big fan of the first one. I liked it, like not any more than any of the other like Marvel. Most of the Marvel origin story movies are the same thing. It's pretty much the same broad strokes of a plot, pretty much the same pacing. So it's just a matter of how well they can pull off the character work, in my opinion. That's what I look for out of a Marvel number one. Number two, I just look for it to not be a bridge movie. God damn it, I'm so sick of bridge movies. The whole plot, like, we sub a villain, but we don't finish it here. Yeah, you're just being a dick and padding one idea that you had into fucking two ideas. Get out.
Yep.
So
Truth.
I like Black Panther because again, it was a pretty typical origin story for a lot of what they did. It did have some help from being a little bit set up in it was either Winter Soldier or Civil War. I think it was Civil War.
Think it was Civil War, yeah.
I think it was Civil War, but so they had like a little bit of a setup in there. But here, and that was kind of nice, right? We took a little bit, excuse me, of that burden off of that movie, and we got to look a little bit more at the characters and the culture, and that was cool to see because it was something that when you do see in old Hollywood, it's pretty bastardized, and here it felt very, very lovingly done. Bro, number two really just carries on with that and has the added bonus it's not a bridge movie. What happens in this is just the events of this movie. It's its own story. Sure, it does set up things for the Marvel Universe, but that's always going to happen in a Marvel Universe anything, right? It's always going to have some bits and pieces that link to other shit. But solidly, this is just a movie, like most superhero movies should be. It has a villain. They stop that villain.
He doesn't do it.
Yep, not this time. So this time we're introducing Namor.
Okay.
I thought they did a great job of. So basically, they're Aztecs, and when they saw the conquistadors rolling in and fucking killing people, they prayed to their gods, and their gods showed them a plant that grew out of vibranium. That's our link in this.
Mm-hmm.
And eating that plant gave them the ability to survive underwater, but they couldn't come back to the surface, and so they are sea Aztecs.
Fun.
And I think it's the American government or a joint government thing has built a machine that can find vibranium, and they have found it underwater. They don't need the jurisdiction of the Wakandas. They're going to go get their own vibranium, except it's in Atlantean land. And so the Atlanteans come to Wakanda and they're like, hey, we keep an eye on what goes on up here. We don't really like any of you, but we can tell you who's dangerous, and it's all those motherfuckers. So we want to partner with Wakanda, and between Atlantis and Wakanda, we can fuck up the rest of the world, no problem. But he's like, we're not giving you the option. Like, you're either going to join us or we're going to kill you, and we're going to take fucking your shit over, and we're going to do it with your shit. End of story. And so he's your villain, Namor, and that fits. I think a few people were like, Namor was a hero. No, Namor was a dick.
Yeah.
He was there when something threatened the whole globe, but really when it came to anything else, he was like, why would I help you? I don't even like you. And
he was the opposite of Aquaman, honestly.
Yeah, he was a sea dick. I really thought they did a great job at sort of bringing that fictitious culture to life. It really obviously pulled a lot of inspiration from South American culture and things, but they kind of made it their own, like, sea version of that, which was kind of cool. I loved how they interplayed the cultures of, like, Wakanda and it's not called Atlantis. It's like Kalamajun or some shit, but it's fucking Atlantis,
sure,
right?
Sure.
So I really liked how those two cultures were, like, blended. Even down to, like, how they reacted things and how they spoke about things, and sort of the kinship that they felt like they had, but was clearly forced out of, this weird aesthetic. I like that the U.S. weren't really the good guys in this. The U.S. is really quick to blame Wakanda and kind of try and, like, hold them accountable for things going on. They're kind of the villains.
But the U.S. government tends to be the baddies in a lot of the Marvel movies too, though.
Look, more what I'm getting at is, like, you have your Captain America side, and, yes, in Civil War he fell against them and Tony Stark fell with them, but they're more the villain in the sense that they don't want to help the heroes do things the right way, and less that, like, they're actively doing something to be destructive. Whereas in this, they're seeking out the vibranium, their blame of Wakanda, and their, like, political force that they're putting on them.
Okay.
It really just showed a light that I'm not saying is never done, but that's not done as often. One thing I actually noticed during this whole thing that I kept looking over at my wife and saying, they did a better job at selling a genre political piece than Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 did. Because Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, and, like, look, that's not like a dig, just they that's clearly what they were going for. They wanted to focus on the world building and the politics of the Star Wars universe. In my opinion, it wasn't carried out very well. The political parts of the original or the prequel trilogy is really what hurt it, in my opinion. I thought Wakanda Forever nailed the political pieces. It felt very genuine. It felt like it was telling a real story, and nothing was, like, so blown out. Like, it wasn't like, but the government is filled with its evil sleazebag. Like, no, it was kind of just the government doing what they do, and you can understand why they do it. But in this particular case, it's not the best thing to be doing, and it paints them as villains. It just worked for me. The whole political aspect just kind of fucked. I was for it.
I'm starting to understand. See, all I've heard about this is either people loving it or hating it, right? There hasn't really been a right down the middle set of folks. Yeah. So I'm starting to understand where some of the criticisms, because I've been media blackout on this. I hadn't even decided if I was going to watch it, just because, again, the first one for me, I just didn't think it was as good as everybody said it was. It didn't deserve Oscars, none of that shit. I know it didn't win them. My point is, I didn't think it was that great. It was a Marvel movie. It was fine.
Yeah, it was Shang-Chi level.
Right, like, yeah.
Which I also really like Shang-Chi.
I'm
on record on this show saying I
did not hate that. Yeah, did not hate that film either. But that's the whole thing there. So, okay. I might check it out.
So,
I understand why
people
got mad.
The political stuff. It's less super because Black Panther is not present. They take care of the Chadwick Boseman thing right up front. Mm-hmm. And I like they didn't be like, oh, like he moved away. Like, no, they don't say what it is, but mini spoiler. It's the opening scene. You're gonna go, that's a spoiler, dude. It's really it's the first 3 minutes.
I knew it was gonna happen.
So they just say he has a disease. The disease killed him. They couldn't act quick enough. That's how they take care of it. And I kind of like that. man, that's sort of what happened. So it still pays an homage to the actor. It gives finality to the character,
Hmm.
and however that hits you is how that hits you, and we move on with the story. It works very well. I think it worked very well.
Okay.
So we do the whole like they have super technology and stuff, but that only goes so far in a world of superheroes. Um, Namor is a pretty great villain. The Atlanteans are pretty fun and cool because it's kind of these like tech tribal battles now. That was really fun. Namor's ankle wings are full and present, and it is just as dumb in film
Yeah.
as it is in the comic. My wife literally kept looking at me going like, "Am I really supposed to take this seriously?" And I'm like, "Look, it's no like this isn't a bastardization. They didn't do anybody dirty. That's exactly what it is in the comic."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can't even be mad at it.
Yeah.
If you're not buying it here, you're not going to buy it anywhere. So at least we did the thing.
I'm glad they went for it,
Yeah,
honestly.
at least we did the. And yeah, it's a little dumb, but you know what? It fucking works as well as anything. It's fine. We get a little bit more M'Baku. I love fucking M'Baku. M'Baku's a G. Uh, I don't know, man. All in all, I really liked it. So my only negatives for it. The post credit scene is weird, and we didn't need it.
Okay.
It's sort of just like a hat on a hat if they're like, also this thing, and you go, but we were fine. We didn't need like, oh, did you enjoy your cake? Here's a piece of pie. Okay, but I just had cake. I don't really need a piece of pie. I just had
Yeah.
cake. And then there's no second one, so there's no like fun setup for another movie. We just get like the one weird ending, the one weird post credit, and then nothing. So that was a little funky. Um, there's a couple characters who I thought we could have ramped up and done a little bit more with. And there's some characters who I thought we could have done a little bit less with. I thought they handled Riri Williams really well, and that's coming from somebody who's not a fan of the character in the comic. Not for any particular reason, just they've never done anything with her that I enjoyed. She's
Hmm.
just kind of a nothing side character to me, and I thought they did a pretty good job of finding a way to introduce Riri into this. The suit looks dope. The shoulder pauldrons are a little large, but they were a little large in the comic. I was
Mm.
hoping they'd fix that. They didn't. It is what it is. Uh, yeah, man, that's kind of it's a little long, though a lot of the Marvel movies are getting a little long at this point, so
So
I can't fault this in particular. But
how
it is
does
still a little long.
how does this movie handle post Avengers? Because one thing that keeps popping up, both with in the forums and in my head, is yeah, but where's the rest of the superpowered people?
What is happening at this point? There is no need for any of them to be involved.
Okay, fair enough.
Really, the most of the struggle is happening in Wakanda, and what is happening in the states that the government is getting mad at is like special ops, low key. Like they're
Hmm.
foreign dignitaries who've come in, and then there was one incident, and then people booked the fuck out. There was no time or need for any Avengers or anybody to show up.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, even like Multiverse of Madness and all that, you start to wonder like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. So for like the scale and the balance now had it continued, like the had it gone past the big end fight,
Mhm.
yes, Avengers probably would have shown the fuck up. The fact that the end fight ends where it does, things are pretty much squashed before they get to any sort of global level.
Okay, okay, fair enough. So
Oh, and sorry, the coolest thing that was in this that like both me and my wife were like, oh, these need to be in every movie. We took away explosions for the best reason. The Atlanteans don't use bombs that use fire and combustion. It's hyper compressed water. So when they throw it, it's all force. And when there's explosions, it's just giant tidal waves and things. And I gotta say, I kind of loved a movie that wasn't just saturated with explosion, explosion, everything hit, everything explode. It was like burst of water, people thrown around, people drowning, burst of water.
yeah, makes sense. It
Kind of loved it.
tracks. Yeah, I mean, definitely works out. I like it when they actually give the enemies a little bit of originality, not just in them, but like their equipment and like not everybody wears fucking armor, right? Like
Right.
skills are a thing, so I like it when that stuff like that is shown. So yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of fun.
No, just on well assembled movie, good follow up, doesn't suffer from that sequelitis that a lot of the Marvel ones do. Not all of them do it, but several of them are
Hmm.
fucking just in between bridge films or kind of tossed out films. This felt like they kind of did have to start over, so it
Yeah,
does that.
yeah, that's fair. But it doesn't try too hard. Sounds like.
I don't think so. They took a swing leaning that heavily into like a movie, an action Marvel movie about global politics, but
Yeah.
I thought it felt very genuine and I thought it worked very well. I liked it.
Oh, fair enough. Give it a rating.
Um, a very shocked and surprised 8 8.75, if not 9. The only reason I'm not giving it 9 is I feel like if I went back and watched it, I could finally start to go like, okay, here's a
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
here's
yeah.
a thing, like most of the Marvel movies. But yeah, off of like a first watch and coming into it expecting it to be a Marvel sequel, I'm not a fan of most of the number twos in the Marvel universe. This was just very surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Okay. Fair enough. I might actually check it out now. Because like
Yeah,
I said, I end up watching them all. I just have a list of ones that I rewatch.
give it that that fair swing of reminding yourself of like Thor 2 and Captain America 2, and honestly, even Guardians 2. I don't fucking
And
love.
wait, Captain America 2, I didn't hate.
Oh, I don't really like any of the Captain Americas, but
Yeah, yeah. See, for me, that they're I won't say that they're all my least favorite is Civil War. I'll be honest with you. I felt like that was Avengers 1.5.
yeah, Civil War is
I just
people love Civil War, and it's got
I
one good fight scene.
I was about to say that is my favorite piece, right? Um, the Spider-Man bits and all that, where they're
Yep.
that solid piece of watching your favorite superhero. It was like a Marvel versus Capcom moment. But yeah. So, anyways, I just I have a short list. Captain America's are fine to me. The first Avenger, I think, is a great. It's almost a period piece to me, honestly, right? Because like you do have the flash forward bits, but I enjoyed it in the same vein that I enjoyed the Three Musketeers.
Okay.
Like it's very much not modern day. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta give it its chance. So
No,
that's how
it worked for what it was, but you also just know me in action movies and especially war movies. It's just not my thing, and that's all Captain America was. It was just a war movie.
yeah, it was exactly, but it was a very particular type of war movie.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense why you liked it and I didn't. I think we fell on the right sides of that.
for sure. And then I didn't hate Winter Soldier. I didn't. I didn't. It definitely.
It's another action soldier movie.
Here's what I would say about Winter Soldier. At least, it was still early enough in the Marvel run that other movies after were are like it versus it being like the others. You
Fair
see what I'm
enough, I
saying?
guess.
They hadn't fallen into that like because everybody forgets, right? We're talking about it's still fairly early on. It didn't fall into the exact fucking formula that we keep seeing over and over now.
Sure.
So that's why I don't hate it. I definitely like the Winter Soldier. That's the if I'm remembering correctly. It's also
That's two.
that's two. That's the where they go like spy, almost spy with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's a genre I do enjoy.
Yep.
You're talking about
Yep.
007. So I totally get why you wouldn't like that. But I thought it was a departure from your because it was it's later on enough that there had been some. So you had like your Thors and your especially Thor 2, Jesus fuck.
Thor
Um,
2 is bad.
yeah, so I thought it was a nice departure from a superhero movie. It did the little spy bits. I liked it. Civil War. I'm sorry, it's the worst. It really is. It's the worst of the
Yeah,
three.
not a fan.
Yeah, definitely not a fan. But yeah. So anywho,
Also, I don't remember if I told you about this. I don't think I did. There is actually a Marvel comic series I think you might enjoy.
I've enjoyed some of them.
It's a new one that I think you might
Ah,
enjoy.
fair enough. Is it the new Ghost Rider?
It is not.
Okay, because I kind of enjoy that one.
You would.
I
No.
it Yeah, little
It is
Mexican
called
kid with Ghost Rider powers. What's not to love?
Fuck his car. He is the Ghost Rider, not the Ghost Driver. Fuck him.
The car drives itself. He's the Ghost
Yeah,
Rider.
the fuck. Great, he's the Ghost Passenger. Perfect.
Ghost
Uh,
Uber, bitch. Continue.
Bloodline, Daughter of Blade.
Oh yeah, I mean, I eat the blade shit up. I mean,
Right, that's kind of why I thought you'd be into it.
So-
Kind of that fun of like a young intro to the world character kind of eyes. It's not quite Mary Sue, but it is.
yeah. I'm starting to realize that in both Marvel and DC, I tend to like the non-spandexy universes.
Yeah.
I'm very much very akin to those. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just don't like. I don't know. I like some. Look, Batman's one of my favorite superheroes. But it's broody, dark spandex. I guess.
I have a Batman shelf. Oh,
Yeah.
you can't see that shelf. It's off screen. I'm not moving the camera.
It's fine. I have a Batman mask, one there, and I'm pretty sure there's another one upstairs. I did a marathon in a Batman outfit. Trust me, I'm a fan. Yeah, although I'm not a hardcore fan. There are some people out there. Jesus Christ! Don't get me started on Disney adults.
You're into what you're into.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's true. But even the things I'm really into, like I feel like I would never show up to the BioWare studios and cry on their floor. Just saying. Just saying. Really enjoy
Sure.
the stuff that they make, but there's
Not gonna blow you.
There's a line. Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially because I know Commander Shepard's not real. Just putting that out there. But yeah, no, I super fan them. I've just never been that, but I do like their non-spandexy bits. So that does sound like something to enjoy. I've always liked the Blade, and I mean, strangely enough, never really been into the Punisher.
Yeah, I never really read any like Punisher specific runs. Like, I don't know War Journal or anything.
At least the anti-hero bladiness, like there were monsters, and I guess growing up, right versus wrong was a really big thing. So, dude, just capping people, vigilante style, never made sense to me. There's that.
Fair enough.
Okay, so Wakanda Forever, might check it out. One last thing before we finish off today, just mostly because I wanted to talk about it really quick. Doom 2016, I started to replay it on my Steam Deck, and it mostly holds up. There's a couple of times when there's a lot of baddies on the screen that it starts to chug along a little bit, but other than that, it holds up. There are some criticisms that come along with this game that people thought that they did too much, and I'm actually kind of on board with it. Just having replayed it, I think it holds up. Like, people weren't happy about the RPG bits. They wanted a
Oh yeah, I was one of those.
a dumb
Like
shooter.
I do feel like it ultimately worked, but I didn't need that in my Doom game.
I think it's fair that you didn't need it, but look at like a series like Serious Sam. I love it, but it's just Serious Sam and it hasn't really evolved much,
Sure.
and that's fine. But I felt like this was a welcome evolution, I will say.
Fair enough.
Yeah, didn't hate it. Enjoyed it. The RPG elements, the collectible.
Killer soundtrack.
Oh yeah, killer soundtrack. So sad to hear about the Eternal one. But I will say, why is everything got to be a fucking collectathon?
Yeah.
Just why? I don't understand.
It's a way to pad out your game easily.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Okay, but yeah, just wanted to say it holds up, chugs along a little bit, sometimes struggling. But I am super happy that they're now releasing hard drives that you can replace for the Steam Deck. So I think you can go as high as 2 terabytes now.
Nice. That is nice.
That you can replace yourself aftermarket.
Cool.
So, super stoked about that as well. And I know that we didn't talk about this, but I'm springing it on you. Dulce de Leche Cinnamon Toast Crunch. How was it?
Too sweet. Definitely not a breakfast cereal. It's a dessert cereal, which is fine by me because I usually eat it for dessert, not for breakfast. But entirely too sweet for me, and that's saying something. I usually like sweet stuff, but just too caramely, too much. It's a one and done.
Okay, describe the flavor though, because I don't imagine a lot of folks know what dulce de leche is.
Cinnamon caramel milk.
Yeah, that's actually dulce de leche is pretty caramely. It's just a little bit gooier, I would say.
Yeah, but in cereal form. You
Yeah,
know,
I've actually
cereal.
I was gonna say I've actually started doing the cereal as a dessert.
Yeah, it's the best dessert.
I didn't used to, but sometimes like especially now that I'm eating healthier, not healthy, healthier. Sometimes I'm like about an hour and a half later, I'm like, man, I'm hungry. I'm gonna have a quick bowl of cereal.
Yeah, no,
There's
like
that.
the legit cereal's been like my go-to dessert over ice cream, over cakes and pies, over
Yeah,
baked goods. Cereal, it's nice and cold, it's crunchy, it's got
yeah,
everything you need, man.
yeah. That fair enough. I do not dispute any of those attributes. One thing I did want to talk about, and this is why I actually left it on here, is have you noticed that they're going a little wild now with the alternate flavors of everything?
And weirdly, there's a big move for alternate sizes. So there
Yeah.
is cinnamon toast crunch minis, Trix minis, Cocoa Puff minis.
And it's not even just cereals. So the other day I was at 7-Eleven and they had in a Pringles bottle mini Cool Ranch Doritos. They were little tiny triangles, all filling up.
Oh, the 3D, they did that years ago. They're
Not
bringing them back.
3D, not 3D, just tinier versions of the Doritos Cool Ranch, except they were in a Pringles style tube.
Because you need to be able to tilt that back and dump it all over your face
Yeah. So
on the go.
that's why they got to be tiny.
Yeah.
I bought some because me and my wife actually like to try out new flavors,
Yeah.
and even new mediums sometimes. Like the 3D things, I thought they were just. I'm like, they're just puffs. They're Dorito puffs. Okay, cool. I don't hate them. They're they had like a Cool Ranch equivalent that was pretty good, but didn't hate them. So they're doing that, and then they're doing like barbecue hot flaming hot chips. They're doing like other flavors now. It's not just Cool Ranch. Sometimes it's zesty ranch, shit like that. Like they're doing all kinds of crazy flavors. Doritos doing it, Lay's is doing it. Like there's some wacky flavors. They're
Uh,
throwing shit at a wall.
Actually, there was a new. I didn't realize what it was at first. I kind of had to look into it. Did you? We did try it. Did you see Pepsi is replacing Sierra Mist?
No.
It's called Starry now, and it's a taste a little closer to like a Sprite.
Oh, and that's a shame because Sprite's always a little too sweet for me.
It was just more of a Sprite than Sierra Mist is, because you got like Sprite, you got Seven Up, and then you had Sierra Mist.
And
This
then
is
and at the complete opposite, you had Squirt.
Squirt. I like. That's grapefruit though.
Oh, I was just thinking citrusy.
Oh sure, yeah. No, Squirt's the king of those. Gives me acid reflux
Oh,
instantly, and I
dude.
still love it. But Starry's not half bad. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Also, you mix some Squirt with cheap red wine, and it makes a nice. I'm not even joking. It's so. I've talked about this before in the podcast. It's a thing from Spain. It's called a red of summer, tinto de verano, and obviously in Spain they don't use Squirt. They use a grapefruit soda that comes in a bottle looking like this but thinner top. And they mix it. And we've came to the States to try to look for that soda, and nope. So Squirt actually does it. Interestingly enough.
I'm a big fan of Rumple Mints and 7-Eleven hot chocolate.
Oh, I mean, it's a different game, but yes, fair enough. Well, I mean, Rumple Mints, right? Like, I've never been a huge fan of the schnapps. I know y'all used to like throw those
Well,
back in the day.
I don't get a lot. Like a lot of people drink the schnapps that are like 10-15% schnapps, and I'm like, what are you doing? Rumpelschmitz. That's what we're going with. Rumpelmints is 100 or what is it, 100 proof, so 50%.
Mm-hmm.
That's some real shit.
Dude, I used to always get shit from people for drinking the Washington apples, and it's
Oh,
fine
yeah.
to each their own. But that's just booze with more booze thrown in.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it tastes delicious and it gets me drunk quicker. What the problem is?
Right.
And on that note, check us out Mondays 7 to 8 Pacific on N5D Podcasts on YouTube. Tuesdays we're doing twitch.tv/metagame network. We've been playing Deep Rock Galactic because there's only been a couple of us showing up. Life happens. It's actually kind of fun. Dwarves in space mining rock. Funner than you think. We'll see how I hate it after the third or fourth time that I die. Anyways, final words, Bonsai.
I have to poop.
Yeah, took care of that before the show. On that note, bye!